four, three, two, one.
Hello, this is Crystal Holman with Diagnosis Autism. I'm the Executive Director of Autism Chapter Eastern Shore. We're here as usual to give you the facts, information, and education to help you help your children. Today I'm so pleased to announce a guest that I have. This is Pam Ruther. She is the Vice President of Easter Seal of Maryland and Delaware. Pam, it's so great to have you on the show.
Nice to see you again.
I know. It's been a little while. So my first question is, I have so many parents ask me, what is Easter Seal?
Well, that's a good question. I always say we're the best kept secret. Everybody knows our name. Everyone knows that we do good stuff, but they don't know what we do. Easter Seals is a national, actually now international, not-for-profit, and we provide services to children and adults with physical and cognitive disabilities. The interesting thing about Easter Seals is that by location, by community, we define what it is that we do. And so in this community, Delaware and Maryland's Eastern Shore, we provide services for adults, as well as children's therapy services and camping services. So it is based on community need. And so locally we do, for me, it's children's therapy services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and assistive technology, which is the areas that we do.
And see, it's so much more than what everyone asks me.
Right.
When they give me an answer. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing that you're able to get all of these things covered in one place, and that part is outstanding. The other question I have is, when a child, a parent has issues and they start having phone calls, does the child have to have a diagnosis prior to coming to see you?
No. As a matter of fact, most children that we serve do not yet have a formal diagnosis. We, for children's therapy services, we do need to have a physician's prescription. Just like you would get an antibiotic, you get a prescription from your doctor that may say physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and the diagnosis that we typically see is developmental delay. What we know is that children with autism spectrum disorders don't typically get a formal diagnosis till almost 4 years old. The nationwide, that is sort of the time frame that we're seeing. But we start seeing red flags at about a year. And so when a parent starts to question, is this right or isn't this right, we say, go see the doctor right away. But better yet, we actually have a tool online that families can use now to get an idea of whether their child may have a delay and then what to do next.
And the tool that you have online, what is that?
Okay, so National Easter Seals last year put together a website called MakeTheFirst5Count.org, and that means making the first 5 years of life count. It is the time when children grow and learn and do more thinking than ever again in their life. It is such a critical time frame. So MakeTheFirst5Count.org, all written out, one word, one series of words. And at that website, at the very bottom, there's a link called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. So a parent of a child anywhere between the ages of 1 month and 5 years can click on the link, and they will put in some information about their child, specifically how old their child is. And they'll be given a list of questions. They can print the questionnaire off, take a few days to complete it. It asks questions about, it asks about communication, it asks about movement, it asks about social skills and relationships with parents and friends. It asks about play skills. And so all areas of child's development. And then once those questions are answered, the parent goes back, puts the information back into the system, and in 2 weeks, they'll get a letter from Easter Seals. They'll get one of 3 letters. The first letter may be, your child's doing great, which no parent ever minds hearing. Your child's doing great, keep going. The second letter may be, there's a few red flags, a few areas of concern, but overall, your child's doing fine. Come back and take this test again in 3 months. The third letter may say, we see some things that are red flags, you should follow up with your physician. Or if over the age of 3, you should follow up. You may also follow up with the school district, or under the age of 3, locally, either infants and toddlers in Maryland or Child Development Watch in Delaware. So it gives the family some direction. It gives them concrete information about where their child is, and then gives them the idea of, what do I do now?
And I have to tell you, that is a phenomenal system that you have now put in place, because with my son Hayden, I remember, things were just changing and I didn't know, and I'm going doctor, doctor, and nobody knew. Well, then here he is, 2.5 years old, and it's, trying to race and help him. And then once I found out that there was even developmental milestones, and I went back and I said, oh my goodness, at not quite 1.5, he was doing this, and he missed this, and I could have got help sooner instead of waiting until he was almost 3 years old. And I think it's so imperative for the parents and not to be afraid. I know for me, it was a gut feeling. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what.
Right.
And I did not know anything about autism when this first started.
Right.
So I was absolutely dependent on the computer and what information I was getting. And to have this service that you have now, that parents can go in even at a young age and just take a look, just to be sure, because the numbers are so high now, and no one still knows why. So it's very important to have that. So wonderful that you have that available.
We're very excited about it. You're absolutely right. The parent most often has that gut feeling, and they may talk to their own parents or their in-laws or a doctor or a friend or a neighbor, and they'll say, I just think they're a little behind. And everyone wants so much to reassure a parent that everything's fine, that the first response is, oh, no, I'm sure everything's fine. The parent of the child with the concern then hesitates. This tool allows any and every parent to know for sure, where is my child on the developmental scale. And what we do know from research is the sooner they're identified, the sooner they get treatment, the better their outcome. And so for children, they may not all, even if they have red flags at 1 year, they may not all have a diagnosis of autism. But even with those red flags, all of those children need to be into service, get it addressed, so that by the time they hit school, they are ready to hit the ground running.
Absolutely,
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
And speaking of services, when the child, so they've contacted you, they've gone to the doctor, they've got a prescription to say you might need something, then you're going to take this child, and what do you do to figure out a program for that child?
Well, when they come in, depending on what they've been referred for, the therapist will do a very comprehensive interview with the parent first, because our first question is, what are your concerns? You're the one that's with this child all the time. You know them better than anyone else. Tell us what your concerns are. If there were physician concerns, tell us what they said. And then we look at the child and do a very comprehensive evaluation. Usually takes about an hour. And in that time, we look at what are their strengths and what are the areas where they're not quite where they need to be. And we use a standardized assessment. So it's a very formal test of specific questions or specific activities that allow us to see where that child falls against their typical age peers. And then between that and the parent's conversation and concerns, we develop a plan to address those concerns.
Okay. So it helps in the easing the parents into the program, and also absolutely giving you guys where's the child developmentally, and what do the parents see and what do you see.
Right.
And that's, again, so important. I can't tell you how important.
You haven't been through this, have you?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember Hayden's first time to come into Easter Seal, and it was quite the little scene, and I'm like, oh no, he's just having a bad day. But I was in denial. I didn't know. I didn't know. And he's kicking and dragging and screaming, and he's just carrying on. I'm thinking, he just sits at home, but I don't know if he should be doing this in public. I mean, it wasn't like my daughter. He wasn't like my daughter, and I just didn't understand. But man, it was the most important assessment they could have ever given me, because all these people are going, I think, but I needed to know, and I wanted to, know what was going on.
And hopefully we handled that delicately.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of parents. I mean, it's hard. I'm a mom, and it is hard to think that everything's not perfect, and feels like a reflection on my
does.
skills.
It does.
And so you do want to say, oh, no, it's really, he's just having a bad day. We hear that so very much. But as the child's there, as we're able to observe, we see those similar things. And there are times when the child's having a bad day, but more often than not, we're able to, working through that evaluation and really talking to moms and dads, we get a better sense of what's going on. And that's how we develop the program. We make sure that we are selecting activities that child likes, because for children's therapy, it has to be fun or they're not going to want to participate.
Right.
So we find out, what is Hayden like? What were the things that really made him happy? And that's usually where we start with therapy.
Yes, and he loved it. He loved it after he got used to the idea that this is to help him, not to hurt him.
Right, right.
Well, the other question is when the family's coming to you and they've got a little bit of a diagnosis and you've got a plan together, when the different services that you do have, if you, let's say they're in the program for a little while and you see something else is coming up, what do you do at that point? Are you able to just redirect the family and, okay, well, like, I'll give you myself an example.
Sure.
We knew for sure he needed OT. He couldn't do much of anything. And we weren't sure on the speech part because it was just happening so fast. And one day he had words and the next day he had no words. And, but I know you all had seen the change, and then you're just like, okay, well, I think we also need speech. How long does it normally take for a family or for your service to say, I know you need this?
Right. What we're fortunate in is that, being that we have all three services under one roof, and I will say that is one of the challenges. We are the only program on the Eastern Shore, and there are so many children that need services. So we are serving about 500 children a year right now, and I'm always looking for additional staff, and we just moved into a new building because we needed more space. So it's always growing. We know those children are out there. But one of the things about having all three disciplines or therapies in under one roof is that those therapists have really learned the developmental milestones for children in areas beyond what their specialty is. So as a speech pathologist is working with a child, they can pick up on some of those cues. Typically what happens is we'll ask the family if we could have the PT or the OT observe, and then from there, if we really think that there's a concern, we will follow up with the physician and say we'd like to do a formal assessment. And that starts from day one. The first very beginning, the first evaluation, that speech pathologist may be is always looking at all domains, and then they assess it ongoing. We send regular reports to the physician, and we make sure that we're on top of those other areas. So if there's a concern, we can start that next step, because as you saw with Hayden, we went from OT to speech. And it really is a matter of very skilled clinicians really knowing children well and knowing what they should be doing.
Well, when they come in and then they've got this program, for the other families that are just starting, how do they get in touch with you? What do they do? What do you tell them to do?
What we would suggest is, if you have a concern, is to first contact your physician, because the physician, we are a medical service. We do access medical insurance, so we have to have the physician's approval and agreement that there is a concern. Most of our physicians in the area know what we do, and so they all know what we do. They know that they can send them to us, and we'll say, yes, this child will do the evaluation, and give them an honest response of, yes, the child needs services, or no, they don't. So the first step is to contact your physician and get a prescription. From there, we have an 800 number, and I can give that to you, 1-800-677-3800. And that number will go to whatever local Easter Seals location that you are near. So for example, you call that in Salisbury, you'll get the Salisbury office. If you call it in Sussex County, you'll get the Georgetown office. And since this show goes all the way to Dover, similarly, if you call in Kent County, it goes to the Dover office. So that number will then get you with the intake person, who will take your information and give you some more information back, and then from there the process starts. We get insurance information, we gather prescription and physician information, and go from there.
Well, do you and with the insurance part of it, I know that even when I got involved, you guys handled all of it. I didn't have to make any phone calls. I was so grateful. I was a absolute exhausted mother, and I didn't have the strength to keep making the phone calls and begging people for services. So I truly know that once you got the little piece of paper that was a prescription from the doctor, you guys got the ball rolling and took care of everything. All I had to do was sign it at the end of it, and that was that. It was over, and I never had to do anything else. So that part of it saves time for the parents and the families, and then getting the services and coming to such a great place. The other question that I did have is there an age restriction for the services?
Well, we are children's therapy services, so when we get a call for certainly someone over 21, we refer elsewhere, first of all. But even before that, you know, we, as I said earlier, being the only provider of therapy services here on the eastern, lower Eastern Shore, we have limited availability. And so what we do is we look at the age of the person first. Sometimes when we get teenagers, we refer them to other clinics because there are PT and OT and speech clinics either through the hospital or freestanding clinics that may be better equipped to handle the teenager because of either equipment needs or diagnosis. I mean, it's, you know, there comes a point where they change to young adults. They're basically young adults. So we will definitely refer on there. The other thing that we look at is if they're school age, are they getting services in school? And if they are, then it becomes a balance because there are so many children that are not able to access school services because of their age. So part of our responsibility is to manage what available resources there are. And so while we don't have a formal cutoff, we sort of say when it's appropriate. You know, even for the kids that we've been seeing from a young age, at a certain point we start looking at when is it time to transition to school services? Because for a child that has challenges with peer interaction, coming to our facility in a quiet room with a speech pathologist adult is not necessarily the best interaction that they need to develop peer skills. So that may happen in school. We've recently started a new program, a social skills program. We're using Michelle Garcia Winter's Social Thinking, which is a well-researched, evidence-based program, and it's grouping kids together, same age group, and facilitating peer interaction. So small groups, 4 to 6 children. Right now we're looking, most of our kids are between 5 and 8 years old, but we are running groups for young adults. In other locations, we're running groups for all age groups. And the idea is to put children who have difficulty interacting with each other together and give them that guidance and give them that support with a speech pathologist and an occupational therapist. So, and that's a new program for us, so we're excited.
I remember back when Hayden was 3, and he went to school, and they're like, oh, he's got to have social time, and I'm literally looking at them going, I can't buy a friend for my son right now. I don't know what to do. Let me know where I can sign up for rent a friend. Because I need about 4 or 5 of them, you know, for him to interact. And I mean, his behaviors were so severe that we were not able to attend anything and couldn't go anywhere. And so for this service of behavioral socializing and being able to have them with their own peers, especially, I mean, I am a homeschool mom, so I homeschool from the time he was 3.5 on. I've been homeschooling, and that social time is very important. Of course, for Hayden, I had to get him where he could speak first, so he could socialize. But at an early age, I knew I needed it. I just didn't know how to get it. So it's just incredible that you finally have a service that would be the social time, because they need it so much.
And they need the support. It's not a matter of just putting them in a room together and hoping that they somehow bump into each other during. It really is a very focused and prescriptive program where they have to engage with each other. And so the speech pathologist, the occupational therapist, they give them the cues of how to engage. They work on projects that are group projects. You know, they may be building a Lego system, but you only have certain Legos, and I have the wheels, and that person has the people, and so
it's coming together
it's
as
a
a
matter
team.
of they have to put it together and be able to ask and request and take turns, and so it's a great program.
Oh, how wonderful!
Just getting off the ground, so we're excited
Now,
about that.
is that going to be in Salisbury and Dover as well?
It is. It's actually at all 4 of our locations, the 3 in Delaware and then the Salisbury office.
That's
we're
wonderful.
taking sign-ups now for our summer classes. So that's exciting.
That's
very
wonderful.
exciting.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. And then speaking of locations, where is the Salisbury office located? Can you tell me about some of the areas?
Sure. East Park Professional Plaza, right near the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, right off of Business 50, between the Girl Scouts and the Community Foundation. We are nestled right in there. We've been there about a year and a half. We had to leave Pemberton because they just got too small, and we kept adding therapists. We're up to 7 clinicians now.
Oh, my
So, and
goodness.
we're looking for more. So, you hear me keep saying that. We also, one of the things we looked at was we had a group of kids that were coming up from Pocomoke and Snow Hill, individual children, and we found that they weren't able to get here consistently to this area because it is such a long drive, and those families they were taking off work. So we opened up a very small office in a church. We have a single room where we provide speech services down in Pocomoke so that those families don't have to travel all the way up. But yeah, we are right off of Business 50. It's a great location, and we're very fortunate to be where we are.
Well, that's wonderful, and especially on convenience, because then it's just right there. Turn to the right, and it's you're right at the place. Well, the other question is, as far as the services are concerned, are there any other services that you want the community to find about? I mean, not just autism. Is there?
Well, I mean, one of the things I wanted to make sure that I shared with you was about our camp over in Chestertown, just outside of Chestertown, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore. It's Camp Fairleigh. It's a year-round camp recreation program, but during the summer, it's traditional camp. It is for children 8 years old. We have camps for children. We have camps for adults, for physical or cognitive disabilities, as well as we have specific weeks dedicated to autism. During those weeks, the children and the counselors, the ratio is 1-to-1.
Oh, wow.
So the whole time. And those kids, they're doing horseback riding, they're doing canoeing, swimming, zip lines. I myself have tried to throw myself off the 3rd story on that zip line. It's a hard thing to do, and those kids love it.
Wow.
They just love it. So there's Autism Week specifically. During the course of the year, fall, winter, and spring, there are respite weekends, because we know there are times where families just could use just a breather. Just a breather. I mean, we see it, and it's so important. It's important for the child, it's important for the parent to get that time. And so we run respite weekends throughout the course of the year where they go to Camp Fairleigh for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Gives everyone a little bit of break. And the child actually is very busy the whole time. So, you know, they come to really look forward to it because it's a lot of fun stuff that they're doing.
And come home tired.
Which is a good thing. That's right. That's right. Besides that, the therapy services are not limited to children with autism. As I said before, most of the kids that we see don't receive a diagnosis to almost 4. We see kids as young as 4 weeks. You know, they may have a problem after birth where they have some limitations in movement, so they may get physical therapy. We see children that have feeding difficulties. So taking a bottle, teaching mom how to try different bottles and nipples to make sure that they fit. We serve children with any delay at the office. The other program that we have, just getting off the ground too, is it's a program called Hannon. It's an international program. It's to help families learn how to facilitate speech. And it is a training. It includes 11 weeks long, and it is really focused on videotaping the parent and child, and then providing input to the parent on how to facilitate. There's some things that we do automatically, and there's some things that we're just not good when our children are trying to talk. One of them is we're not good waiters. You know, we say, "Would you like juice? You want juice? Yes? No? You want juice?" And one of the things, the simplest lesson from Hannon is, "Would you like juice?" And then you wait. and you wait and you give, because that may take some time.
Right.
Great program. It's for parents of children with a delay, and there's a specialty for parents of children with autism. How do you facilitate that communication?
Yes.
So,
and
that's all
again, what an amazing program, because that's the one thing that for when Hayden, the communication part of it, he would, of course now he's able to talk to anybody and usually not imitate what they've said.
Right.
But in the beginning, if you'd say, or let's say it's a waitress and she says, "Do you want French fries?" He'd say, "Do I want French fries?" And he'd think about it and think about it, and he'd say, "Yes, I do want French fries." And he'd answer them.
Right.
But he had to process it.
Right.
And people don't understand. Not everyone can process immediately. Sometimes there is a little delay there. And for the mothers, for the fathers, for the grandparents, instead of that frustration of now, give it to me now.
Right.
We live in a very fast world. And with children with autism or any delay,
Yep.
you have to slow down.
Slow down.
You have to give them a moment to speak and give them a moment to think about what they're going to say. And then you set that child up with absolute success. Instead of setting them up for failure.
Right.
Hurry, give me the answer.
Well, and it is providing the parent with those tools, and that's a big part of what we do in therapy. Is we spend a lot of time working with the parent, because therapy is limited. It's a half an hour, a couple of days a week, one day a week even. And where the real work happens is when the parent goes home.
That's
because
right. That's
we
right.
give them the tools. We try and give them solutions and things to try and different ways to do things so that they can be successful. But most importantly is we want the child to work on that skill that we've worked on so that we can keep moving forward. But it is the parent. They are their primary teacher.
And this is one of the things that I've told the community. Everything you know about parenting is thrown out the window. You have to relearn how to be a successful parent for that child to have absolute success. And through this program that Easter Seal brings, you're able to do that. So again, this is something that's extremely exciting for the parents to get the training to be with their own children. That's one of the things that I hate to use the word preach about, but man, that's what I say.
Absolutely.
I'm teaching you to teach, to be with your child.
Right.
When the behavioral specialists came for me and working with me on helping me to understand Hayden to, go down the steps a certain way, or use both legs, or slide. I was like, well, what difference does it make? I didn't get it. And then they explained it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I never knew that, So there's just so much that brings, like the gross motor skills or the fine motor skills, and how it all comes together, and then how it works for the child. Well, as just a regular mom, you never know this information. And thank God there's places that help teach the families. So that's another amazing program that you guys have up and running. And
yeah, it is my passion. It's an incredible organization, and for us, it's about the children. It's about getting them the best start, and hopefully, so they don't need our services later. That's my goal. There's not many places that say I want to put myself out of business, but boy, wouldn't that be a great thing if you could do that. So, it's just whatever we can do to support the child, to support the family, and to support the school when that becomes the time.
Yes. And then the last thing that I have to ask you is, what can the community do to help Easter Seal? What can they do as far as a community is concerned?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing I would say is I really hope that everyone will take the opportunity to share the information about the website, makethefirst5count.org, and tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell new mommies, new grandmommies and daddies, to go and to do the Ages and Stages questionnaire. Yeah. Find out from the beginning. Again, 1 month to 5 years. That questionnaire can give you some guidance, and it's an excellent tool, and you can go back to it as much as you want. And it's a way to just know where children are. The earlier they're identified, the earlier they get treatment, the better the outcome. That's probably the best thing that we can do as a community. I'm going to say one more time, we're always looking for those skilled clinicians. Yes. Eastern Shore is a tough area, to get. Without having schools for speech or OT. Right. We don't have the professionals here in the area, and so we're always drawing them in, and I'm always recruiting. So that's one of my things.
And I have to tell you, I've had many of the different aides that come in to help with me with Hayden from Dub Point, and through those girls, if they tell me, oh, I'm thinking about being a physical ed or, this. I'm like, oh, have you ever thought about working with children with OT? How about occupational therapy? And then they're to make a comment about doing something with speech or so. I'm like, have you thought about being a speech, pathologist? Have you thought? And it's amazing. It's amazing. And I try to send them your direction and see if any of them will work. And everyone that has ever gone to your direction is so overwhelmed, in love with it, that they're like, you've changed my life. This has changed my life, and I'm so happy for them. There's also, I have to tell you, Hayden, as of right now, if you ask him, what do you want to be when you grow up? He tells people, I'm going to be a speech pathologist, and I'm going to teach the children to talk. I know, it tears me up. The first time he told me that, I was just in tears. So grateful that now that he's learned to talk, he wants to give back.
That's incredible.
So it's amazing.
That is incredible.
It's amazing, but it has been he's at over 10,000 words. He's speaking French, German, Spanish, and we're just now working on Chinese. Now we work with one of the ladies. Well, I go over to Lucky Star and I say, how are you today? Or, how old are you? Or, are you having a good day? Or what is your name? And then she tells me, and Hayden, and then we try to remember the sentence. We say it all week, work on it. And by the end of the week, when we go back to see her, we've got it. And so I have a little cheat sheet that's a person that's so wonderful. So I have a little help on the Chinese because I can't pick it up automatically. I'm not. I'm working on it though, but he's doing really well.
That's awesome, and that's what we want to hear. That we are so lucky. We hear that all the time about kids that we have them when they're babies. We really do, and they just do incredible things, and it's a very rewarding field.
You need a reward wall. Once they have gone so far, I have a little. Look at this one. This is where they were, and this is where they are. And, yeah, I know that's that part of it is it's got to be a wonderful journey to be able to see. The beginning is rough, the middle is, but then the end result, and what the end result is a child who is independent, self-sufficient, self-reliant, and amazing citizen, and that's what our goal is.
That is the goal.
So,
absolutely.
Again, I'm so happy that you were on the show today, and anything that Easter Seal ever has coming up or running, please make sure you can contact me, and we'll talk about it on the show. And
great.
Again, I'm so thrilled to have you part of the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And I want to thank everyone from PAC 14. You're watching Diagnosis Autism. I'm Crystal Holman with Executive Director of Autism Chapter Eastern Shore. Again, thank you so much for having PAC 14 part of our show. Bye-bye.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC 14 is a great way to connect with your community.